of us want to spend our later years with dementia. We don't want to be a burden to others and miss out on the time we could have enjoyed with loved ones. But what are we going to do to prevent dementia? In today's episode, we'll be sharing some things you can do to stave off dementia and care for your health. Welcome to the Jesus People Sisterhood podcast, a place where Christian single women aged 50 plus connect. I am your host, Janine Jordan, a Christian confidence coach and leadership mentor in Alberta, Canada.
And I'm your co-host, Ellie McCormick, a Christian longevity coach and mentor in the USA. Being single women over 50, we know what it's like to feel overlooked, to have unrealized dreams, to experience the challenges of singlehood, and to be concerned about what our future will look like. We couldn't find anything online for single Christian women over 50, so we created Jesus People Sisterhood just for you, a place where sisters encourage and empower one another through the last third of life, because you are a treasure trove of wisdom and of exceedingly great value. This is an authentic community, a supportive family, with other women on the same journey where Jesus is the center of it all. Here you will find real talk, real community, and real sisters.
Join us as we discuss building relationships, whole health, and growing spiritually. We'll review helpful books and articles, chat with guest speakers, share success stories, and have some laughs along the way. So grab your favorite beverage and we'll get started. Welcome, sisters, to this episode of the Jesus People Sisterhood podcast, the only podcast specifically for single Christian women over 50. Today, we give a shout out to our sisters in Israel. Thank you for listening. It's a blessing to provide this podcast for free, but it does cost us to produce Jesus People Sisterhood episodes. It would be a great blessing to us that if you decide to buy a book mentioned in this podcast, you purchase it through the link in our episode show notes. Today we're discussing brain health. We listened to an episode of Stephen Bartlett's The Diary of a CEO podcast with guest Dr. Rhonda Patrick, a PhD in biomedical science. What is shared in today's podcast is for informational purposes only. We're not medical professionals. Please consult with your doctor before taking actions or making decisions regarding your health.
We'd mentioned brain health in previous episodes like episode 2, where we talked about the effect of loneliness on developing dementia, and in our interview with Lizette Cluda in episodes 14 and 15, if you want to go back and listen to those episodes where we give information about the brain. We wanted to do an episode specifically about brain health and nutrition, but just never got around to it. And then I happened to be listening to the Diary of a CEO episode with Dr. Rhonda Patrick, and I realized how valuable the information was that she was sharing and wanted to share it with our sisters.
So, sisters, you'll want to take notes for this episode. We'll be giving you a lot of information that was shared by Dr. Patrick on how to stave off dementia and have a healthy brain. So we encourage you to listen to the episode yourselves, and a link can be found in the show notes. This is an especially important topic for you as women over 50, as we want to have healthy brains so we can serve the Lord and others, enjoy our lives, and be a blessing until we go home to be with the Lord.
Here are some stats on Alzheimer's and dementia. According to a January 2025 article by NYU Lang on Health, a new study shows that the risk of developing dementia at any time after age 55 among Americans is 42%, more than double the risk reported by older studies. U.S. dementia cases are estimated to double by 2060, with a large part of that increase among women.
And according to a March 2025 online article by Alzheimer's Society, women have a greater risk of developing dementia during their lifetime than men. And the main reason for this is thought to be because women live longer than men. Age is the biggest risk factor for dementia, so living longer means that the risk of developing it is greater. Around twice as many women have Alzheimer's disease, the most common type of dementia, compared to men. But other forms of dementia, like vascular dementia, dementia with Lewy bodies, and frontotemporal dementia, are more common in men.
The lifetime risk for Alzheimer's at age 45 is 1 in 5 for women and 1 in 10 for men. That's astounding.
Hmm.
So if you're 45 or older, 1 in 5 of the women you know at that age are going to have Alzheimer's.
Wow.
1 in 3 older Americans dies with Alzheimer's or another dementia. It kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. And regarding the economic impact, according to Alzheimer's Disease International, the total worldwide cost of dementia is over $1.3 trillion. This means that if global dementia care were a country, it would be the 14th largest economy in the world. So it's costing a lot.
Hmm.
Research shows that most people currently living with dementia have not received a formal diagnosis. In high-income countries, only 20 to 50% of dementia cases are recognized and documented in primary care.
So, sisters, this is a very relevant topic for us and not to be ignored. But the good news is, according to Dr. Patrick, that there are some simple things we can do to improve our brain health. So let's dive into some of the info Dr. Rhonda Patrick shared. Again, we encourage you to listen to the Diary of a CEO episode entitled Anti-Aging Expert on How Missing This Vitamin is as Bad as Smoking and What You Should Know About Creatine.
Dr. Patrick has done research on aging, cancer, metabolism, nutrition, and neuroscience. In her research, she has learned over the decades that there are many small changes we can make that have a really big impact on our health, meaning our health span, which is feeling good and being essentially disease-free throughout our life. So according to Dr. Patrick, there are simple, important tools that people can do in their life right now to drastically improve the way they age. But many of these tools are still not known to the general population.
You may think that genetics determines whether you develop dementia or not, but actually it plays a small role. 70% of the way we're aging is due to our lifestyle. Dr. Patrick says that there is a 14-year difference in life expectancy for the person who acts on her information and the person who doesn't. And it's not just about your life expectancy, but it affects your independence, your mind, and how forgetful you'll be. In essence, it would be a terrible quality of life. So now, not only would you die over a decade sooner, you're just not going to live a good quality of life. And Dr. Patrick says the person who acts on this information might be 90 and out surfing.
Dr. Patrick thinks being sedentary is a disease. Most of us are not moving enough, and we're on that sedentary scale where we're not physically active. We sit at our computer or desk all day. Sedentarism has been shown to increase the risk of early mortality even more than type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or smoking. Being sedentary can predict early mortality even more than those diseases.
And there was a study done in the 1960s called the Dallas Bed Rest Study. 5 young men in their 20s were put on total bed rest for 3 weeks. Their cardiorespiratory fitness was measured at the beginning and at the end of the study. Their cardiorespiratory fitness had tanked by the end of the study. 30 years later, they found the same 5 men, now in their 50s, and measured their cardiorespiratory fitness and other parameters for the 1960 study. And after the study in the 1960s, these men went back to living an active lifestyle. And what they found is that 3 weeks of bed rest was worse on their cardiorespiratory fitness than 30 years of aging. These men were in better health in their 50s than after the 3 weeks of bed rest in their 20s.
Cardiorespiratory fitness is one of the best predictors of longevity. People with a high level of cardiorespiratory fitness live 5 years longer than people with low cardiorespiratory fitness, and they are 80% less likely to die of many causes of death, including cancer.
Hmm.
We're all aging. If we're not doing something to improve cardiorespiratory fitness, we are going to be aging faster. And everything becomes a maximal effort. You're out of breath talking. You're out of breath carrying groceries to your car. That quality of life is not good. And you're going to die sooner.
All right. So, how do you improve your cardiorespiratory fitness? You want to engage in vigorous exercise, something where you can't hold a conversation while you're doing it. Your heart rate should be 80% of your maximum heart rate, and it can be done in intervals like HIIT exercises. Unfortunately, the usual recommendation of just riding your bike or walking, an activity where you're able to talk while doing it, for 2.5 hours per week may not improve your cardiorespiratory fitness for 40% of exercisers. Dr. Patrick says that's like a coin toss.
It's the stress on the system that improves your cardiorespiratory fitness. So we should be doing HIIT once or twice a week. And HIIT stands for high intensity interval training. Dr. Patrick talks about the Norwegian 4x4, which is the gold standard for HIIT training and best done on a stationary bike or rowing machine. A Norwegian 4x4 is where a person rows or rides their stationary bike, or it could be running, for 4 minutes at a moderate level. And then they switch to 4 minutes of high intensity. And you switch back and forth for 20 minutes.
Right. But hey, even doing 1 minute on and 1 minute off is good for 20 minutes. What's the minimum? Once a week for the 1 minute off and 1 minute on. You can try Tabata, which can still improve your cardiorespiratory fitness. But the Norwegian 4x4, which Ellie just told us about, is the gold standard and something to maybe work toward.
In a study at UTSW Dallas, the Norwegian 4x4 was part of an exercise protocol and shown to reverse the structural changes that occur with age in the heart by 20 years. Dr. Ben Levine did a study with sedentary 50-year-olds that didn't have any other diseases. They were put on an intense exercise routine for 2 years. The control group was put on a stretching routine. The exercise routine was progressive, so they started out lighter and worked their way up. Remember, they were sedentary 50-year-olds. By 6 months, these people were working out 5 to 6 times a week and included 2 sessions of the Norwegian 4x4, and it also included a lot of moderate intensity cycling or running and some strength training. They did this for 2 years. As we age, our hearts shrink and get stiffer. That plays a role in cardiovascular disease, which is the #1 killer in the United States. After 2 years of this exercise protocol, the 50-year-olds' hearts were bigger and less stiff, and their hearts looked like 30-year-olds. So you can take a 50-year-old and put them on an exercise protocol and even reverse the aging of their heart by 20 years.
So, if you haven't been doing high intensity training, don't go out there and start pushing yourself to do the Norwegian 4x4 tomorrow. You need to start slowly and work your way up. Doing anaerobic exercise produces lactate, which affects the brain like ketones in ketogenic diets. It feeds the brain and produces BDNF, which improves memory and cognition, focus and attention, and your mood. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, is a protein that plays a crucial role in the growth, survival, and differentiation of nerve cells, neurons in the brain. It is a type of neurotrophin, a family of proteins that support the nervous system. BDNF is particularly important for synaptic plasticity, which is the ability of synapses, connections between the neurons, to strengthen or weaken over time, and is essential for learning and memory. So people who do vigorous exercise versus regular exercise have improved cognition scores and impulse control. And it's like your muscles are pharmaceutical factories, and you get them to produce these good chemicals by challenging them with vigorous exercise. And based on this info, Dr. Patrick says it's better to do 10 minutes of intense exercise a day than 10,000 steps.
Yeah, so I've been doing 10,000 steps.
I think
Um,
everybody is.
yeah, I got to change this up now. So, What can we do now that affects our cognitive abilities at 90? First off,
Mm,
there's good news for us older ladies. It's not too late.
mm,
There was an exercise study that was done with 60-year-olds and older who were put on an aerobic training program for 1 year. And it was a 70 to 75% max heart rate. So it wasn't as vigorous as the other study with the 50-year-olds. The
mm,
basis of the study was to look at brain aging. As we age, our brain, just like the heart, also shrinks with age. It's called atrophy. Around midlife, your brain in areas like the hippocampus, which is involved in learning and memory, starts to shrink by 1 to 2% per year. In the study, the people were doing aerobic exercise 3 times a week for 30 minutes a day. That's not that difficult, right?
mm.
So it wasn't that intense. The control group, again, was stretching. After a year, the control group's brains did shrink about 1 to 2%. That's normal. But the group that was training not only did not have their hippocampus shrink by 1 to 2%, it actually
Mm.
grew by 1 to 2%. So
Wow.
what's exciting about the study is it's possible to not only stave off brain aging, but to reverse it and increase it through exercise. And it's
Mm.
never too late because these people were 60s and above. So you can start this in your 60s or even later and still have a benefit.
Good news. So, exercise is the gold standard because it not only staves off the atrophy of the brain, but it regrows some of it. A lot of you listening may be thinking, I hate exercise, or exercise is not that easy. And I can understand that. But let me encourage you to make a start and work your way up slowly. The people in these studies did, and even reverse brain aging. Your brain and your family will thank you for it. Okay, exercise is hard but worth it. But now we'll talk about some low-hanging fruit. Here are some simpler things you can do for your brain besides exercises.
First up, multivitamins. Dr. Patrick talked about a bad study on multivitamins from 10 years ago that said multivitamins were not helpful.
Hmm.
But more recently, 3 large trials have been done with a run-of-the-mill multivitamin, think Centrum Silver, over 3 years. And the group that took the multivitamin as opposed to placebo improved cognition, processing speed, and remembering experiences. And it improved it so much that it was the equivalent to reducing the aging of episodic memory by 5 years.
Micronutrients affect the way we age and our health on a similar level as toxic things like radiation. Vitamin D deficiency. 70% of the US population has insufficient levels of vitamin D. We get vitamin D through sun exposure, but most of us don't spend much time outdoors in the sun, and when we do, we wear sunscreen, which blocks the UV rays that give us vitamin D. Dr. Patrick also explains that the darker your pigmentation and the further you live away from the equator also has an effect on vitamin D levels in your body. So the darker your pigmentation, the more time you need to spend outside, and the further that you live away from the equator, so that your latitude affects your vitamin D level as well. Vitamin D deficiency is insidious. It accumulates over time. It's not really noticeable, and you may feel lethargic, like you don't have enough energy, but you don't know why. That's a symptom. We know now that through multiple studies that vitamin D deficiency or insufficiency can increase dementia risk by 80%. The converse is also true, that people who supplement with vitamin D3 have a 40% reduced risk of dementia. Let that sink in. You should get a blood test to know where your levels are. Brain damage happens with decreases in vitamin D levels per studies. 4,000 IUs, that's international units per day, can increase vitamin D levels to normal.
Creatine is a supplement that we're starting to see everywhere. The body makes creatine, but we also get it through eating meat. Creatine is consumed mostly by our muscles. It helps increase muscle mass and strength with resistance training. Dr. Patrick said that the first 5 grams of creatine goes to your muscles and the rest goes to your brain. So she takes 10 grams because she found it helped her with not being tired in the afternoon and with brain function. A German study was done with people deprived of sleep for 21 hours. They were given creatine, which made the person's cognitive function better than if they hadn't been sleep deprived. Another study suggests creatine reduces cancer risk.
So, how about a sauna? It's been popular to build saunas in homes. More traditional Finnish saunas are associated with 40% less all cause mortality. It is believed this happens because saunas mimic moderate intensity aerobic exercise. Deliberate heat exposure after aerobic exercise increases the benefits. A sauna affects mood and ability to handle stress. And Dr. Patrick noticed better memory in herself from sitting in a sauna.
We also want to limit our exposure to microplastics. Do you realize that paper coffee cups and soup cans are lined with plastic? Even tea bags, ladies. And just because a plastic is labeled non-BPA doesn't mean it's not toxic. BPA has been replaced with BPS, which is just as toxic, if not more, than BPA. So let's be intentional and start looking for alternatives to all the items that are contributing to the microplastics in our food. Another good thing is to increase the fiber that we eat. Eating more fiber may keep your body from absorbing plastics and move it out of your system.
Magnesium is another important mineral. It's required for over 300 enzymes in your body that need it to function properly. It's also used to make energy and to use energy to repair damage. Close to 50% of the US population does not have adequate levels of magnesium because they're not eating the food to get magnesium. Insufficiency can lead to pancreatic cancer. If you don't get enough magnesium, your body can't repair damage. People with the highest magnesium levels have a 40% lower all-cause mortality than people with the lowest magnesium levels. They also have a 50% lower cancer mortality than people with the lowest magnesium level.
So let's talk about nutrition and lifestyle. You don't want to constantly activate your insulin pathways. If you reduce sugar hits to the brain, you lengthen life and vitality. This is where time-restricted eating comes in. When in the fasted state, you trigger autophagy, which is the clearing out of damaged stuff in your cells. Some metabolic benefits from fasting are improved glucose levels, improved blood pressure regulation, and weight loss. Even if you eat the same amount of calories but compress the eating window, it improves all things. Longer fasts activate the repair process. Make sure you're getting enough protein and doing resistance training to not lose muscle mass. It's better to eat earlier in the day so you don't have elevated blood glucose levels at bedtime, and it's best to stop eating at least 3 hours before your bedtime. When you're sleeping, you don't want your body to have to work on digestion. Studies show that 23% of people enjoy better sleep after intermittent fasting. So stop eating earlier in the day and sleep better. Most of us are insulin resistant because we are eating most of the day. This damages our health. It's linked to many diseases and accelerates the way we age.
Well, let's talk about what foods to eat and not eat for a healthy brain. Dr. Patrick talked about omega-3 fatty acids that we can get from seafood like salmon. Omega-3 helps the brain and prevents cardiovascular disease. It's anti-inflammatory, which plays a big part in depression. Marine sources are the most important ones that you need. A Harvard study identified not eating enough seafood as one of top 6 preventable causes of death, up there with hypertension, smoking, and cardiovascular disease. Because fish have metals and microplastics, supplements may be better.
And the following information was taken from several online articles. You can find links to these articles in the show notes. Eating certain foods can have a positive impact on brain aging and can even help prevent dementia. Experts have developed the MIND diet, MIND, which combines elements of the popular Mediterranean diet and the DASH, Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension diet. The MIND diet recommends the following foods for preventing dementia. 1. Colorful fruits and vegetables like carrots, squash, sweet potatoes, bell peppers, tomatoes, papaya, apricots, and leafy greens such as spinach and kale. 2. Berries. 3. Fish like tuna and salmon. But remember to watch out for mercury and microplastics by eating safe catch tuna and wild caught salmon. Number 4. Nuts, seeds, and legumes, and 5. Whole grains.
What food should you avoid? First one, sugar and artificial sweeteners. 2, processed foods. 3, bad oils and fats. 4, heavily pesticide sprayed produce. Look for organically grown, especially for the Dirty Dozen list. Ellie will talk more about this in our upcoming episode of Fast Like a Girl.
Well, sisters, we know we've given you a lot of information. We hope you've taken notes. To sum up, the biggest preventer of dementia, as well as benefiting your overall health, is vigorous exercise. That is work. But the other things we've talked about are relatively easy. You can take supplements for vitamin D, magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids, and creatine. And you can start making healthier food choices. You can always listen to this episode again, and we hope you do, because none of us want dementia. Do your own research and keep yourself informed on this subject.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please share any thoughts that resonated with you from today's podcast episode in our private Facebook group at Jesus People Sisterhood Community. Start reaching out to other single women and create your local group of Jesus People Sisters. Please let us know about your group to add to our directory by contacting us at support@JesusPeopleSisterhood.com.
Have you had a good experience with a business? They've treated you honestly and helped you at a reasonable price? Please let us know. We would like to start a directory of JPS-friendly businesses. Let's care for one another.
Be blessed by Him who is able to protect you from stumbling and to make you stand in the presence of His glory, blameless and with great joy. Until next time.
Hey, sister, before you go, thank you for listening. If you found value in today's podcast, the best way to say thank you is by leaving a 5-star written review at Apple Podcasts. That raises us in the rankings and helps other sisters find us too. And please tell a friend or post it on your social media. If you're a single Christian woman over 50, this podcast was created specifically for you. The Jesus People Sisterhood is your community to find support and friendship with other sisters who can understand. Be sure to follow us on your podcast app and join our free private Facebook group at Jesus People Sisterhood Community.
Jesus People Sisterhood has also started a private Facebook group for housing and co-living opportunities. You can check that out at Jesus People Sisterhood Senior Housing. You can also find us on Facebook at Jesus People Sisterhood and individually for Janine at riseupcoachingandconsulting.com and for Ellie at samaramountain.com. And ladies, this is the necessary disclaimer. Our podcast content is for informational purposes and does not constitute professional advice from mental health, medical, legal, financial, or other areas. The opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host. It is our heart that this podcast will be a blessing to you. Together, let's build a powerful sisterhood with Jesus. Make a friend, add a sister, across the border and around the world.